I'm grossly underprepared for this, Brett. I'll warn you.
Well, I notice a difference, though.
Probably not, no. Probably not. I was going to say I've missed speaking to you. I was going to say I've not spoken to you for a while, Brett. I've missed it, but I take it all back, and I'm not going to say it at all now.
Hello and welcome to the ROKER RAPPORT Exiles preview podcast in association with Vaux Breweries. I'm Brett Lyons-Davis from Milton Keynes and we've got a busy pod today. We'll be talking about the lads winning 1-0 at Tranmere yesterday, including our man Rich Spates, before and after thoughts from outside Preston Park. As we are the best of the ROKER RAPPORT podcasts, we're actually taking on some extra work. We've got the Xtra's responsibility now, so we'll be hearing from Jimmy Lowson as he caught up with Hugh Bunce from the PO4Cast. I've been speaking with Luis Cardona, a New York prison guard who's coming over for his first ever Sunderland game this weekend. John is making the Exiles run. And also, as always, your letters and, of course, playing away. This week, though, I am joined, first and foremost, John Stacey from Lincoln. John, how are you?
Very well, Brett. I've literally just finished my run, which I will talk about later. But yeah, feeling very good. Bit tired out, but good. Feeling good.
Good, man. I'm looking forward to, so I say, you know, you've done a big charity run. You've got us all sort of roped into it. But yeah, we'll be speaking about that later on. There's also one today, the man who I'm always petrified when I say where he's from. It's Bomber from Gloucester. How are you, mate?
Good evening, Brett. I've also just come back from a run. So, yeah, a bit out of breath, a bit sweaty. Not had time to have a shower. I'm sure you wanted to know that.
Yeah, cheers, mate. We're a very fit pod this week, aren't we, actually? And last, but by no means least, is our favourite Australian friend, Martin Wanless. Well, he's not actually Australian, is he? I suppose he's in Australia. Martin, how are you, mate?
I am well, thank you. I'm a lot better with the current results and also having knocked out about 29 miles this month. I am about to go for my last run of the month after we finish recording today. So thank you for John for getting my fat arse into gear in January.
Yeah, we all owe John a bit of a thanks for that, don't we, actually? Martin, where have you been on the pod this week? Obviously, this is the first time that I've spoken to you, this year, actually. But obviously, you came over from Australia over Christmas, back up to the northeast. How was it come back over again? You know, when was the last time you were back in the UK?
I had a great time. The family had a great time. We were over for 4.5 weeks. Apart from a fleeting weekend visit to London to watch the Jackett Trophy final in March. The last time I was over before that was Simon Grayson era. So the last time I was at the Stadium of Light, I think we got beat off Sheffield United at home. So yeah, it's been a couple of seasons since I was at the Stadium of Light, but we got 3 games in at home. We got the Bolton game on Boxing Day, which was my 6-year-old son's first game. And we got the Lincoln game and Wycombe game. So I actually did pretty well in terms of the home games I got to.
And what did your son think of his first visit to the Stadium of Light?
He loved it. And he's got a funny little accent. He's got an accent that English people think is Australian, Australian people think is English. He's walking around Australia now going, "Away the lads, away the lads." So
superb.
He's getting 1 or 2 looks at school, but look, it was a really special day, that Boxing Day game. I know.
I'll tell you what, Mark, you set the bar pretty low for him. If his first game was Bolton, you set the bar low.
This was all part of the plan. You see, my first game was a 2-0 home defeat to Oldham Athletic in front of about 11,000 people. So, in terms of the bars, we've got pretty low bars, the both of us. But
are you preparing him for when he joins the Exiles in like 15 years or something? And he can say, "Oh, my first game."
Well, that's right, exactly. I've suffered, but it's quite good. He's been watching the last couple of games, Doncaster game, the Tranmere game, have been on sort of semi-reasonable times over here, sort of 7 o'clock in the morning. So he's been watching them a bit, and he was spotting where we were sitting for the game when we were watching the Doncaster game. But yeah, look, as each of us have sort of different reasons for getting into supporting Sunderland, but mine, like a lot of people, is through family. And like, my dad started taking me when I was about 7-year-old. And from 1986 to 2010, when I moved over here, me and my dad went to every home game every week. And wherever I was in the country, I'd drive up to my mum and dad's, and me and my dad would go to the game. And for me and my dad to take my son to that Boxing Day game, regardless of the result, it was a cracking day, a special day. We went early, we had a look around the ground, we found our bricks in the wall and all that sort of stuff, and it was just a really special a really special day, and obviously one that we hope that we'll repeat with better outcomes a number of times in the future.
I understand 100%. As I said before, I took my daughter to her first game last season, and me, her, and my dad went as well. And obviously, because I live down south, and the whole reason I support Sunderland is because of my mum and dad. And to take the 3 generations there, it is a really, really special moment. And I know my dad, for him as well, it was really special to have his son and his granddaughter at the game. And we did the exact same thing. We showed her the bricks first. My uncle, who's no longer with us, has got a brick at the Stadium of Light just next to mine and my dad's. And it is taking your kids to it. And it sounds a bit soppy and whatnot, but it is a really, really special moment.
Ultimately, that's what it's all about. Obviously, the results dictate how you feel game to game and week to week. But to me, it's all about friends, it's all about family. Like, we've had the same season ticket seats at the Stadium of Light since it opened. Well, actually, I tell a lie. After 2 seasons, we missed the deadline, so we had to move 2 rows in front. But we've pretty much had the same seats for 20 years, so we know all the people around us, and it's good to see all those people as well. And some faces come and go, but for them, they knew that I was coming back. They knew I was bringing Ted to the first game. They were excited to see him as well, and made a bit of a fuss about him, and it was just class.
That's brilliant. It's more than a game, mate. Definitely that. But I will move on because I got well enough. Obviously, the lads won last night, 1-0 versus Tranmere on a very sandy, boggy, awful pitch. But before us 4 delve into it, Rich Spate was there, recording both before and after the game. So let's hear how Rich got on first.
We're outside the Mersey Clipper, just next to Tranmere Rovers football ground, and with me I've got a Sunderland fan who lives locally, John Lambert. You alright there, John?
Yeah, evening.
And I've got my little Thomas with us. He's not so little these days. You alright, Tom?
Yeah.
So we've come over from North Wales. This is our closest game, and John lives just up the road in Oxton, is it?
Oxton, yeah, Oxton. This is effectively a home game for me, although I won't be in the home end, obviously.
Short journey home for everyone tonight, not so for a lot of the Sunderland fans who've come down. We've just got the team news. The team news is that basically the same side apart from...
Well, Ozturk's not in the squad. Bailey Wright's come in, and we've got the new sign-in, Scowen, is it? I don't know if I pronounced that right, but he's progressed to the bench.
So it's the same system. It looks like same forward line. No Lafferty in the starting lineup, which I think we're a bit disappointed not seeing Lafferty. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah.
You wanted to see the big lad?
Yeah, I wanted to see him in, maybe score a few goals.
Yeah. So we're I think a lot of people are expecting quite a big victory tonight. I'm not so confident. I have echoes of Bolton away in my mind. Everyone coming down expecting a stonking victory. Where are you on your expectations for tonight, John?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident we'll win. I've been living locally. I know Tranmere haven't really been up to much all season. They got dealt with at the Stadium of Light, and they certainly got dealt with on Sunday. I don't think the conditions are going to hamper any side more than the other, really. So as long as we stick to our system and do the basic things right, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, the thing I've got in my head is, well, what was the score on Sunday?
6-0.
It was 6-0.
I can't believe that.
I've got in my head that their manager's going to be making them really tight. He will have had them working on some of their defensive frailties, but and I didn't get to see that game. But you were saying earlier that they look a bit vulnerable from even outside the box.
Yeah, I mean, defensively they're shambolic, and they essentially just stood off and let United do whatever they wanted to do. So United were just had so much time on the ball, and we were just pinging shots in. And as we were chatting about earlier, I think that plays into our strengths with Gooch and Maguire, who love a shot from outside the box. Maybe even Max Power, if he can come and haunt his boyhood team.
Oh yeah, was described today as the Max Power derby.
Yeah, I believe his old man's one of the ultras here. So.
Fantastic. Well, divided loyalties for Mr. Power this evening. We've been chatting to a few of the locals here. A very friendly club, I have to say. No aggro going on outside the ground. Everyone seems in pretty high spirits, to be frank. and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say. Predictions before we go in. Tom, shall we start with you? Because you are pretty confident, aren't you? What do you think the score is going to be?
7-0. 7-1.
7-1. Well, it'll be a fantastic night if it is. Have you got a bit of a more measured prediction there, John?
Slightly more measured. I do think we'll keep a clean sheet. I don't think it'll be the prettiest game, but I think we'll win by 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for 2-0. I think we might, law of averages, we could concede, but I'm going to say 2-0 because they don't seem to have very much going forward. And who knows, we could end up with a decent score. It would be nice to see Lafferty coming off the bench to get one. So yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0 with a Dobson and a Lafferty, I think. Goal scorers?
Gooch and Maguire. Like I say, they're a threat from outside the box.
And you've predicted so many goals, you could go through half the team and say who your goal scorers. Who do you think is going to get the most for us then?
Wyke or Lafferty?
Wyke and Lafferty. Well, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get a good result this evening. Another 3 points on the board, and I think the less said about that game, the better. So, what do we think in terms of the weekend? It's going to be a different kind of game, do you think?
Going to have to improve.
Yeah.
All over the pitch, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, the playing surface will be better at Preston Park, and it's going to be a real atmosphere down there. I mean, there's become some sort of rivalry after last season, and what went on during the home game down there in the semi-final of the playoffs. Their home form, I don't think they've lost at home all year. We are starting to travel well. We've got the best defence in the league, so we've got to make use of that. And like tonight's game, one bit of quality, one good ball in has done it. And if we can stick to those principles, then we've got every chance of going there and getting a result. But we have to play better.
We had one shot on target in that game. One shot on target.
Some might say that's promotion form, but
yeah. But yeah, I mean we're still there with 5 points off the top. We've moved into 5th place. So there's every chance, isn't there, Gav?
Well, let's hope, innit?
Yeah.
You've got to keep hoping. Hopefully get a couple more lads in before Friday. I think we need a striker, I'd say, nippy striker.
Yeah,
you won't get a striker unless two go. It's as simple as that, or at least one of them, or one of the big earners. I mean, you know, what's Watmore on? A lot of money, still on the Premier League contracts. You know, Griggs on what, 11 grand a week, possibly.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like he's going to move.
Minotti won't go unless both clubs agree to return him, so we're trapped with him. So I personally, I'd have cover for Denver Hume, and I'll be sleeping a lot happier.
Yeah, we're a couple of injuries away from being in a bit of trouble, I think. What do we think of Bailey Wright's performance as a debut today? What did you think of Bailey Wright, Tom, at the back in defence?
He was all right for about a few minutes.
He dealt with everything, though. He dealt with the high balls, and I mean they didn't offer anything really.
Nah.
Although the first half they were 1-on-1 through on goal, weren't they? At one point.
Yeah, but as you say, they didn't threaten at all, did they? They had a poor team.
There was a lot of balls whacked out of play tonight.
They dragged us down to their standard, basically, didn't they?
I think you're absolutely right there.
I'm surprised that no balls went out the ground.
I know. Over that little stand. Yeah, one nearly did, and there was just a proper lack of quality there, and we really didn't deal with the pitch conditions or the way they played. And they were roughhousing, weren't they? They were all over us.
Yeah, they're a physical team. And
again, just to reiterate, the refereeing was absolutely appalling.
The opposing team were like fish, and he didn't care. He didn't have to.
They were diving all over, weren't they? Yeah, they would have been happier in water, I think. Absolutely. So, cheers for your time, lads.
So that was Rich Spate there, who was at Tranmere yesterday. So I'll start with you, Bomber. Difficult game, obviously, like pitch-wise. We got through it. What were your sort of thoughts of yesterday's match?
So I didn't get to follow the game yesterday, other than on Twitter. Going into the game, it was kind of one of those that I'm looking at the state of the pitch and looking just it being a massive equaliser. It was one of those that you go away midweek and by hook or by crook you get a result and you come away with it. From what I gather and from what I can tell, the match itself was absolutely terrible, so it doesn't sound like I missed an awful lot. But the most important thing is, again, from what I can gather, the lads dug in, ground it out, got that goal on 60 minutes and kind of never looked back. That's what you need to do. You need to go to the likes of Tranmere and play on the sand and the terrible pitches and go and get results. And realistically, that was probably a game that last season, we might have had a 1-1 draw, or even earlier in the season, that would probably been the same thing. So even though the game was by all accounts terrible, the performance wasn't great, I think that as a result means more than beating Wycombe 4-0, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it was a ground out result. John, yourself, I know you were watching the same very biased Scouse stream that I was watching. What were your sort of thoughts? Was it purely the result was the main thing? Performance a distant second.
Yeah, I think it was difficult to watch. It was definitely a hard watch, but that was, I think both sets of supporters would say that, and that was down to the pitch more than anything. But then I think that famous saying of the pitch was a leveller was definitely apparent. I think Tranmere didn't really have much. The Scouse commentary that we were listening to, if anybody else listened to it, they'd think that they were sort of like they'd had 10 shots and they literally had kind of one, and they were just biased about everything, which was hilarious. But the thing that I found most interesting about yesterday, and I say interesting, but I also say it positively in a sense of like the squad side of things. But the last couple of games we've had, last sort of 3 or 4 games, we've had players that are playing pretty well and starting to show a bit of consistency. And whilst a few of them dropped off last night because they really struggled with the pitch, what we saw was a few others come to the fore and sort of show what they had about them. And I think Luca Nine had a really good game, and he'd been a bit off the ball on and off the last couple of games. Charlie Wyke obviously got the goal, and his performance wasn't amazing. They bullied him again, and been bullied the last couple of games, and he's not showing, I guess, kind of strength that we thought he had. But I think he plugged away and he carried on, and he definitely showed like some grit about his mentality, I guess, more than anything, away from his physicality. Max Power looked like he absolutely loved it, and was easily man of the match, I think. And Bailey White had a good game coming in for Ozturk. Thought he did really well. He sort of showed that he's a bit of an old school defender, just wins all the headers, clatters people. I thought he looked quite solid. Surprising that he jumped in, but obviously I think Ozturk's got an injury or something. But I was a bit concerned how he performed and whether he was fit, and he looked really good. He looked like he enjoyed it on the pitch and all. And yeah, so while Dobson and a few others sort of looked a bit, and Hume didn't really look like he had much going forward, Gooch and Maguire struggled on the pitch. Other people came up and stood up, and I'm going to take it as a positive going forward. I think what it shows is that we're not one-trick ponies. We're not like we're not reliant heavily as much as maybe people are kind of assuming with regards to Gooch and Maguire, and because when they play poorly, we've got other people that might stand up overall. So I'm going to say it's a positive, and hopefully they'll take that into the next game. Big game against Pompey. So
it's going to be a massive game on Saturday. Martin, one thing I wanted to just touch on yourself. I know you mentioned it yesterday in the group chat. Phil Parkinson and his subs. What was your thoughts on those ones?
Yeah, well, I don't think you can read too much into the game yesterday. It was one of those where you just have to go in, get a result if we can, and come out. The pitch didn't allow for any real football. But one of the noticeable things about Phil Parkinson as manager is he doesn't tend to make too many subs to really change the game. And part of me thinks that's probably down to the size of the squad and the options he's actually got. Because when you look on the bench, there aren't a great deal of options. I must admit, I probably would have used McNulty a bit more than he has been used, but for whatever reason, he doesn't fancy him. The concern that I have, I think, obviously we've had a nice run of form, and it's been a good run of form. And Parkinson, for all of the criticism he deserved for a terrible, terrible start to his career here, we do look as if we've actually got a system and a style of play and a purpose about the team. And I think the best thing about the performance against Tranmere was the attitude that the team showed, the commitment to grind out that result. The thing I have a concern about, and hopefully that'll be addressed over the next sort of 24 hours or so with the transfer deadline, is we are so heavily reliant on 11 or 12 players. If Hume gets injured, if Maguire gets injured, if Gooch gets injured, we have a severe lack of options on the bench there. So I think that's probably part of the reason why Parkinson's subs haven't been too forthcoming. That game on Wednesday night will have took it out of them, and we've got a hell of a difficult game on Saturday. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we don't see any repercussion on Saturday in the performance that the team delivers.
Obviously, such a heavy pitch like that, it's going to take it out on the legs. Even when we were 1-0 up, I'm surprised to say, like you say there, players like Gooch or Hume that we're really over-relying on at the moment weren't taken off just to save them for Saturday. So it will be interesting to see what sort of team he does start.
It's the midfield for me, Brett. Like Power and Dobson they've played 6-7 games on the bounce and pretty much 90 minutes per game. It's a fine balancing act, isn't it? So it's good that we've got that consistency in that starting 11, and obviously they're performing. And I think Phil Parkinson also needs to take credit for he's quite clearly improved the fitness levels, because early on in the season, there's no way that those 11 players would have got through 90 minutes of games for 7 games on the bounce without breaking down or without needing a rest. So I do think he needs credit in that respect. But I do worry about that centre midfield. I know we've got Scowen in there now, but Power and Dobson have played an awful lot of football over the last couple of months. The only real backup being Grant Ledbetter, which nobody seems to trust anymore.
No, I agree with you there, Bomber. So it's hopefully we've got, say, 24 hours left of the window, where I know a few more names have been chucked forward today. I'll no doubt come tomorrow morning there'll be another handful that will appear that we're after. Once that dust settles, I do think we need to add to the squad. I know we was all saying it previously that under Jack Ross we never knew our set 11 game by game, whereas now we can name that set 11 easily. But now we're now thinking, is it too much of a set 11? Say you need to rest players and give people, when form does dip, can somebody else come in? So no, the next 24 hours will, I think, determine where, if we go up as automatic, if we're in the playoffs, or ultimately we miss out. So no, it's going to be interesting. I
think one final thing as well, it was good to see Joel Lynch celebrate a goal. Like he enjoyed that one.
He did. It was very strange, that goal against the Dons, wasn't it? I don't know what that was. Maybe he doesn't.
I think it just caught the camera caught him at the wrong time.
It probably did. I think it's to say that little snippet there. If we're trying to catch his breath or something. I'm sure he's as happy as anybody.
Yeah.
But we will come on to talking about the Portsmouth game on Saturday. Obviously, it's a massive game. But as I said, we've sort of taken on board some of the ROKER Report Xtra responsibility. So Jimmy Lowson caught up with Hugh Bunce from the PO4 pod. And here's what they had to say.
Hello and welcome back to the Xtra podcast. It's me, Jimmy Lowson, and I'm delighted to say I've been joined by Hugh. How are you doing today?
Good to be on the podcast again.
Yeah, recurring guest. You're probably up there at this point as, if not the most regular guest from an opposite fan base, certainly up there. In fact, you probably got that title. Is this number 4?
Well, I've done it for a couple of years now, and we played each other so many times last season, didn't we? Was it four times? So I think it might be a bit higher than that. I think this might be 7 or maybe more.
Wow, that is some effort, Hugh. Yeah, no, because we did have the 5 games, including the Checkatrade Trophy final that was so important that you've already kind of moved well beyond it. That sort of meaningless trophy that you guys took from us in heartbreaking fashion.
Yeah, we're still competing in that as well. So, why not just add more games to the schedule?
I know. It's one of those where I had the theory going into the season that Sunderland would be too good to tank the competition. I thought we're definitely going to make it at least until the round of 16. And then, believe it or not, we were so terrible in autumn, we're already out. So we've at least achieved that goal for the season of getting out of that competition nice and early.
Maybe that's a tactical move from Parkinson. What do you reckon, a masterclass?
I wish it was. But we actually played a full-strength team and lost 3-0 to Scunthorpe. I don't know how Scunthorpe are getting on now, but at the time they were 18th in League 2, and it was just one of those games where you're like, oh my God, how are my football club this bad? It was truly a sort of grim moment. I'm sure any Sunderland fans that watched the game, any fans that were there, will just have that one scarred in the memory as a as an all-time low point for a team that's had quite a few of them sort of over the last 5 to 10 years.
Well, we just knocked them out, mate. So and they played a pretty tight game actually, 2-1, and it wasn't an easy game. So I don't know if that makes you feel any better or not.
Not really. I mean, no. kind of reassuring, but yeah, no, it was just the way that it was like, oh my God, when they got the second goal, you were like, are we going to lose this game 4-0? Are we about to get turned over by one of the worst teams in League Two? But if they're picking up and giving you a game and you're in good form, that's at least, yeah, it does soften it a little. Now, the interesting thing sort of with Portsmouth is the last time we played you guys was way back in August. I think it was the third game of the season. And maybe with the exception of Ipswich at that time, Hugh, it was still seen as a game between the two quality teams in League One, the two promotion favourites. All our listeners, myself, I've got plenty of theories as to why it's all gone wrong for Sunderland. But from a Portsmouth perspective, what were the reasons for your struggles this season?
It was a really difficult start to the season, and as you said, coming up till mid-October, I think we're 17th in the league. So what was particularly bad, I suppose, about us was the fact that we had players playing all out of position. Kenny Jackett, in that sense, was getting a pretty hard time, and at the time, I think quite fairly from the fans. There was a lot of individual errors actually at the start, and Kenny Jackett started by playing a sort of 4-3-3, quite a high press, which I thought was really good. But unfortunately, we had quite a few little individual errors at the back, some slips, some lack of concentration, giving goals away. And eventually, he basically reverted back to a formation which is the very defensive, deep formation that Kenny Jackett tends to refer to in times of need. Now, the problem with that is it doesn't suit the players which we've purchased in the summer. So it was a system that wasn't working. And until recently, when we started turning it round, the players didn't fit the system at all. And I think everyone just lost a lot of confidence. We couldn't score goals. We conceded a lot of late goals as well. Games that stuck in the memory, one of the ones against Coventry, when we went Coventry went down to 9 men and then managed to pull 2 goals back late on. And that just shows the absolute shot of confidence that the squad had at the time. So it's good to see us turn it around now.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is something I wanted to touch on, really, the late goals, because when things were going badly for you, I did notice sort of like in certain areas of Football League Twitter, a lot of people that sort of analyse the league closely were sort of saying this Portsmouth team, they're dominating games, they're still doing a lot of things right, and they just can't catch a break. Sort of, was that the sense from the fan base? Was there a sense that this team is way better than, say, 16th in the league or however far you dropped, or like you said, were there still also question marks about the team's ability to take chances, and obviously the manager as well?
There was huge issues as well at the back, and Kenny Jackett went out in the summer and he brought in Paul Downing, who from Blackburn, but Sunderland fans remember him as well, playing at Doncaster last season. We all thought he'd come in and do a good job. I thought the transfer was a good bit of business, but for whatever reason it didn't work out. And then he tried all kinds of different people to partner Burgess at the back. So we had Ollie Hawkins, who you guys know played up front. He played centre-back for a while. Obviously, you had Downing playing there. You've now got Sean Raggett, who's now stepped into the team to play there as well. Tom Naylor was playing centre-back at some time. And we've had Brandon Houndstrip, our left-back, playing right-back, and Anton Walks playing right-back or centre midfield. So it was really a bunch of sort of like round holes, of square pegs being forced into them. And I think because of that, there was no cohesion to the team. It was all really sloppy, really messy. And yeah, it was quite horrible to watch actually at the time. But I think Kenny Jackett's finally sort of found a formation that works. The players seem to have bought into the system more. And there's no doubt this squad's a really talented team. It was just about, could he get the best out of them on the pitch?
How was the Ollie Hawkins at centre-back experiment? Because that was one that sort of jumped out at me. Like, I remember him playing there in a big game against Wickham, and I thought, is that a thing now? Because obviously he's massive, but it was just very weird to see him playing there.
It's an odd one, actually, because I thought, he stepped in and he did a job, basically, and he's not a he's not a centre-back, is he? He's a striker. But that just shows how poorly Kenny Jackett thought of Downing and other centre-backs that he brought in, that he ended up starting our striker at the back purely because, he's defensively, he can hold on to the ball, he can head it clear, but there was a couple of really big howling mistakes, which meant that it became quite clear that we couldn't consistently play Hawkins at centre-back. So he gave away a couple of penalties. Against Peterborough, we're 2-1 up at home, and he manages to lose Mo Isa completely in the box. And it's just that mentality that a central defender has, knowing where to track runners, that Ollie Hawkins, unfortunately, doesn't possess. So, if you need to fill in for a game or two, that's fine. But he's definitely not the solution at the back for Pompey.
Sort of on this run you're on now, is the defence something that you've shored up? Is it somewhere that's maybe still a weak point in the team? How confident are you in sort of your current back four and your goalkeeper going into Saturday's game?
Well, I mean, the defence looks really solid, actually, in more recent games. The team generally is playing very well. 7 wins in a row now in all competitions. As far as the form table goes, I think we're top in the last 12 games, for instance. So 8 wins, 2 losses, I think, 2 draws. But the defence has been a lot more solid. Sean Raggett's come in and partnered up Christian Burgess, who you guys would be quite familiar with from last season, playing at the back with Matt Clark, who obviously moved on. And there are big boots to fill for anybody who's going to step in and take over from Matt Clark. But Sean Raggett's looked all right. He's had some really good games. He played really well against Lincoln last night. I was really impressed with his performance there. And it's just he's got the occasional howler in him. And I suppose you could say that for a lot of League One defenders, though, can't you? And maybe I'm holding him up to too high a standard. But, if possible, getting a new centre-back would be preferable. The likes of Mane Monte at Tranmere was really, I think, be the difference maker for us at centre-back. But just moving quickly to left-back, we brought in Steve Seddon from Birmingham on loan. He's been an absolute treat. His dead ball delivery is amazing. He's quick going forward. He's made a huge difference. I think he's got 5 or 6 assists now in 5 or 6 games.
That'll be right up there then. That'll be right near the top. That must be the most for a defender in this league, I would have thought.
Yeah, and he only joined at the start of January as well. So, I mean, he takes our corners as well. And the centre-backs have actually started scoring. So Christian Burgess has got 2 recently. Sean Raggett's decent in the air. He hasn't scored yet, but, we're actually looking like our defenders are actually causing trouble, basically, for other opposition defences and generally looking very solid. If you play the ball long, if it's in the air, those 2 at the back are there to clean it up. So going forward, we look a little bit better. James Bolton on the right is a little bit defensive, doesn't get forward too well, but, Seddon's really difficult to stop. And genuinely, the whole team, I haven't really got any complaints.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Burgess, for the most part, in all our games, I think he's somebody that's normally stepped up and been quite good. I think he likes the matchup with Wyke. I think those 2 know each other from a previous club. If I'm remembering right from sort of previous commentaries on the game, I think he likes going up against that big physical centre forward that's going to give him an arm wrestle. I think there's a lot of grabbing, a lot of elbowing, there's a lot going on, but for the most part I think that's a matchup you guys generally do quite well in. Sort of moving on to you mentioned the form table, Portsmouth are going up. At the time of recording, disclaimer, unfortunately recording whilst the Tranmere game's going on. This was scheduled before the Tranmere game got moved to Wednesday, and it's just one of those things. The FA and the EFL moved the game on short notice, and unfortunately this podcast ends up clashing with the Tranmere game. But at the time of recording, you guys are right there, just above us in the sort of playoff spots. How confident are you that the second half of the season, this could be a team that contends, that goes up automatically?
Well, I suppose you've probably got the same feelings as us in what the league's like this season, because League One is nowhere near as strong as it was last season, in my opinion. The likes of Luton, Barnsley and Charlton, I think they would be right up there now as 1, 2 and 3 if they're in this league right now. So it's a very close league. You look at the teams at the top now and you think Wickham, we can overcome that sort of team. They've dropped points off recently. Rotherham are in good form, decent team, but Have they got the quality in the squad to see it through in a sort of difficult period at the end of the season? Not quite so sure. It's all very tight, isn't it? And I think we've got a decent squad. And if you'd asked me this question in November, I would have laughed at you and said absolutely no chance.
Yeah.
Because we were awful. Like, you know, we're absolutely awful. But looking at the table now, looking at our form, you know, January we've had 7 wins in it. So only 1 draw. So I'm pretty happy with how things are looking, and I don't see why any other team in this league can't be beaten, and we can't go on to at least challenge for the automatics, and if not, get a playoff spot.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. Like you say, I mean, it's one of those where, as a Sunderland fan, my opinion changes every week. If you'd spoke to me 2 weeks ago after we beat Wycombe, I'd have said, "Yep, we're finishing first. That's it. It's done. It's done. Parkinson's found his formula, and we're going." And then a sort of scraped win and not overly convincing win against MK Dons and a stalemate against Doncaster, and now all of a sudden I'm really not sure what to think. I'm not sure whether this is a team that's right there ready to kick on and challenge. Like you said, Rotherham, not overly convinced. Ipswich have been up and down. It's really tricky to sort of get a sense of the good teams. Rotherham I don't have a great sense of. When we played them, we were winning 1-0. We miss a penalty to make it 2-0 in the first half an hour and draw that game 1-1. Typical Jack Ross game. Yeah. So it's really hard for me to get a sense of who the quality teams are. I think one of the things with Portsmouth is they've always sort of, like us, sort of maintained the season, not bad sort of underlying stats. There's sort of the late game, so you can maybe look at them and say, have they been unlucky at times? It's an interesting one. I wanted to sort of touch on Kenny Jackett, Hugh, because obviously when we struggled, we changed managers. Jackett's still in. You mentioned before that there have been times when maybe he hasn't got the best out of new signings. Sort of what's the feeling around Portsmouth surrounding him at the moment?
There was a huge chorus of fans who wanted Kenny Jackett out, and it really split the fan base, and it got to the point where, you know, hosting a podcast like I do, a bit like yourself, you try and sort of, you know, listen to the fans and also your feeling, and not make a harsh judgment straight away. But at the same time, it got to the point where we lost to AFC Wimbledon away. It was 1-0, and I was standing on the terrace and I took a video of the Pompey fans all singing, you know, "We want Jackett out" at the time, towards Kenny Jackett, who was very close to the dugout. And at the time I thought, do you know what? I think it's time for him to go. The board came out, they backed him, okay, they stuck by him. And at the moment, even people who maybe see the long-term future of the club not behind Kenny Jackett are sort of, well, the majority, there's always a few, isn't there, are sort of rallying behind on the level of he has turned it round, even to the surprise of some people. And most people now are just backing the team at least at the end of the season, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Interesting. So that is interesting that even sort of if it does go right this season, that maybe it won't be that long before it's a change. And like you said, he has turned it around, but criticism's obviously
for it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I think sorry to interrupt, I think the main reason is because when you look at the team we've got and the players we've got, you know, we're quite an attacking side, really. I mean, you've got the likes of Ronan Curtis, John Marquis, Ellis Harrison, Marcus Harness, and these players need to play a lot more of a passing style. And I think a lot of fans got fed up watching Kenny Jackett's, what some fans would call hoofball. So that was where not just the results, but it was the style of football. And if you're going to lose, you might as well lose in an entertaining way. But recently, that's changed a little bit. In the game against Barnsley, for instance, you know, we outpassed them all around the pitch and looked fantastic. So maybe he'll be able to win those fans around. And if he can play some more attractive football up until the end of the season, I think you'll see him stay at the club.
I will be honest, actually. I remember sort of the game going all the way back to December 2018 when you guys were top of the league and flying and you beat us 3-1. Sort of going into that game and being a bit surprised at just how direct you were, at just how sort of basic the football was, at just sort of how Route 1 it was, how much it was about sort of getting the ball into Hawkins and then playing off him. I was a bit surprised at that. And that is something sort of following the EFL that you do see from time to time, that Jackett's maybe the guy who struggles to get the best out of the creative talents in your team. Maybe a bit like Jack Ross with us, doesn't always, create enough chances, doesn't play quite the attacking handbrake off football he should have. So that is quite interesting. That's something that started to grate with the fan base. Obviously, when you get results, it's a lot easier to stomach and sort of compromise other stuff you don't like within the football club. You mentioned Marcus Harness, you mentioned John Marquis, and obviously last time we played Hugh, it was Marquis who was struggling, it was Harness who scored your goal and looks pretty good as a Jamal Lowe replacement. Sort of having followed Portsmouth's recent games, it's Marquis who's been scoring and Harness who's been on the bench. What's sort of been the turnaround there, and how have those two been getting on?
Well, John Marquis got his opportunity in the team through a few more cup games coming on. Kenny Jackett had an experiment playing him as a number 10 rather than a number 9, which didn't work, basically, to spell it quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't sound great on paper.
And it's because he was struggling to find somebody to play number 10 in the system. Now we've got Andy Cannon playing behind John Marquis, who he's great. He drives the ball forward. He sucks defenders in. He plays those little through balls through. He's creating space for John Marquis. That's what he needed, really. So John Marquis is now doing what he does best, which is not anything outside the penalty area, basically. He just needs to get in the box. He scored quite a few tap-ins, quite a few goals that arguably were going to go in anyway, effectively, from another player. And he's nicked him on the line or he's tapped him in, but they all count. When you've got a striker who can put the ball in the back of the net, that's what they're there for, isn't it? So Marquis's movement, I think, off the ball is pretty good at the moment. And now he's back into that number 9 role. He's playing regularly. He's actually looking like a goal threat again. On the right-hand side, you've got Marcus Harness. This is one thing that I actually don't like at the moment. You've got Ryan Williams, who's playing out wide right. Kenny Jackett really likes him. His work rate's good. He's decent on the ball. He cycles it well. But when it comes down to it, he hasn't really got that end product, through assists or goals or whatever you want to know, really. So Marcus Harness is by far the better player. He's the player that if you go through one-on-one, against your goalkeeper, you're more likely to worry about. He can finish, but maybe his tracking back, Kenny Jackett at least perceives him as not as good a defensive option, which has meant that he's actually gone with a safer choice and played Ryan Williams out on wide right. So that's why Marcus Harness has struggled to get back into the team. And I suppose like most attacking wingers, he fluctuates a little bit, he's a bit streaky. So if he does play or comes on, he is a goal threat and he will take players on. He will run at your back 3, I think it is now, isn't it? And cause them some problems. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Marcus Harness's, and I think he's got a good future at the club, and he's got that ability to play at a higher level. So yeah, I think it would be a good shout for you guys. I'd be happy if I was a Sunderland fan if I look at the team sheet and I see Ryan Williams playing right wing rather than Marcus Harness.
Okay, so is this guy a bit of a League One dirt cow, bit of a trier that's not really going to potentially make or break the game?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there are people in the Pompey fan base that, think he's great and he works really hard and his dribbling's good and he passes the ball well and he moves. But when it comes to just getting that last ball in the box or just getting that shot away to make a goal, it just never quite works out. So that's how I'd sum him up quickly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And like you said, Harness took his goal well at our place. Looked like a confident player, looked like a pretty good Jamal Lowe replacement sort of in the one meeting we've had. And it was Marquis really where you were looking and thinking, is this guy going to turn it round? Is this guy going to re-find his Doncaster form? And it sounds like now the roles have slightly flipped a bit where Marquis is coming on, he's back in the goals and Harness is the one on the outside looking at him.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I think the right-hand side for Pompey has looked a little bit more defensive, and whoever plays on the right-hand side as a winger will always struggle a little bit more offensively going forward because they haven't got a dynamic sort of right-back to play with them. James Bolton rarely gets, forward on the overlap, whilst Ronan Curtis on the other side, who's being Pompey's best player, and that's a fact, I'd say, rather than an opinion. He's got Steve Seddon at the moment, who whipping round him, going on the overlap, providing the short pass and pass back, and then pass and move, one-touch football. So he's got that luxury of a really good wing-back playing on the shoulder of him, whilst on the right-hand side, we look a little bit more muted.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had that problem a bit with Rhys James last year, where Aidan McGeady would attract all this attention, and then the ball would go out to Rhys James and he couldn't cross or he couldn't dribble, and he was just a purely defensive fullback. And it was an issue we had where James was so much better defensively than Hugh and Oviedo. We'd lean on him a lot, and he played in a lot of our big games. But then there was always that thing when James is playing, if he gets the ball, it's pretty much the end of an attack, and it is always that balancing act with managers, and more often than not, a lot of them will take the safety first option. The other thing I sort of wanted to really hit on is one thing sort of as a Sunderland fan, that although I see us as very evenly matched teams with similar ambitions that have sort of had some really sort of close tussles sort of last season, is that it's felt as if Portsmouth have really struggled to create chances and break us down. Obviously, you didn't score in the playoffs last season, won in 90 minutes in the Checkatrade Trophy. And then when you were still fighting for automatic promotion, we did a pretty good job of nullifying you at the Stadium Light in the league game as well. Do you have any idea what Kenny Jackett might do to address that? Or is this such a different team that isn't even really something he'd be concerned with?
Pompey being quite a different team away from home and at home this season, of how they set up, and the same formation, same players, but these sort of attitudes to go for a game. So at Preston Park, we're unbeaten in the league this season, for instance, which is obviously great to see for the home fans. And I think you'll see we'll start with quite a high tempo. When we played against Barnsley, who are a very good passing team and a good attacking team, they played with two up front. And what we did is we pressed them right up the end of the pitch. We didn't give them any time on the ball. We were bearing down on them from quickly. They looked panicked. So I think the difference is that last season, a lot of the time we were getting, especially in the playoff semi-final, and you guys absolutely dominated the midfield, I think it's fair to say. We sat so deep and we couldn't get the ball out. Then you had Hawkins, or whoever isolated up front. The balls are going long to him, and then it's, can he hold on to the ball for enough time, wasn't it, until someone else can get there and support. I say now we're actually attacking more as a unit. Andy Cannon pushes forwards and attacks, drives forward. Ronan Curtis is bearing down, and so is the same right winger. Close is again providing a bit more support further up the pitch as well. And I think the other thing to point out is that the striker, whoever we play, whether it's John Marquis or Ellis Harrison, they're both fairly quick strikers who put a lot of pressure on the goalkeeper, don't give your defenders much time on the ball. Whilst Hawkins couldn't really do that job of sort of, running around and closing defenders down as well. So at the back, you'll get a lot less time on the ball. So, as long as nothing goes terribly wrong. But we've got a lot quicker players in that sense up front. And I think it's causing problems in creating chances.
Yeah, you've got me a little bit worried saying that, because one of our big problems sort of in the MK Dons game in the second half against Lincoln is once a team flips the switch on us and starts pressing us, we don't have the best technical players. It's quite easy, especially for our back three, to then resort to just going long to Wyke too often, and then the ball's coming back or the ball's with the opposition and we're forced to sit off and hand over the initiative to the other team. So the idea that this is going to be a quicker Portsmouth team with that Preston Park crowd that's really going to get after us does have me a little bit concerned, considering that we haven't really followed up since our 4-0 smashing of Wycombe. So that does have me a bit worried if this is going to be a energetic, faster Pompey side, full of form, coming for us. That does have me a little bit concerned. Sounds like sort of the key players is some new ones that you've mentioned, and then the same sort of midfielders before. Who should Sunderland be looking out for? Obviously, we've sort of touched on Marquis and a few others this time around.
I mean, the player to watch out for, and I'm guessing he's the favourite player in Sunderland generally from Pompey fans, and it's Ronan Curtis. 11 goals in the league this season. What's quite interesting about him, which he's worked on over the summer and worked on for the start of the season, is that whilst he plays on the left-hand side, he's always been predominantly right-footed with his shot. So a lot of players are reading the cut back inside to shoot move that he was doing, which was meant that he actually started the season really slowly. However, he's done a lot of work on crossing the ball with his left foot now. And because of that, he can skin players and put a great ball in with his left, which means that defenders are actually having to, worry about that as well, which is opening up a lot of space for him to shoot with his right foot as well. He scored a free kick yesterday against Lincoln with his right foot, from outside the box. He's by far our best player and on absolute form at the moment. Other players to watch out for, Andy Cannon, number 10. I already mentioned him. He looks great. Tom Naylor in holding midfield. Whether Ben Close starts in midfield again, I think he probably will start there. But you've got Cameron McGeehan as well on loan from Barnsley, who's a decent player. Obviously, he played before for Luton, if you recall him from playing there.
We were apparently very close to getting him last January, and it was one of those where, that was we nearly got him just after we got Grigg, and it sounds like we can get a deal over the line. It wasn't one that was reported that much, but I think we were really close to getting him for our midfield. So it would be interesting to see him if he does get a run out.
Yeah, well, I think that's a possibility. I mean, Ben Close scored a decent goal a couple of games ago, so maybe he takes a claim. But so the players I'm going to highlight three. It's Ronan Curtis, Steve Seddon, I've already said, our left back, and Andy Cannon, who I believe will play 10 in the game.
So do you get the sense that this will be a bit like the playoff games, where we're talking a really tense sort of scrappy affair, a real midfield battle, or with your guys' form, can we expect more goals this time? Do you think you guys will really open up? What are you sort of anticipating ahead of Saturday?
Well, it was a difficult one. I just recorded my podcast and we talked about score predictions, and I was thinking about it. And when it comes to us, I've always got 1-1 in my head, no matter home or away. In the form we're playing in at the moment, I'd hope we'd be able to score more goals than that. I'd hope for more of maybe a 2-1 or a 3-1 to Pompey, but it will come down to the fact, I think, and there's a lot of sort of shithousery and banter, isn't there? Or animosity, I suppose, is a better word than banter between the two sets of players. So if Pompey can keep their heads and pass the ball around well and get on the front foot, then I think we've got a good chance of scoring a few goals against you. However, if we get wound up by, Chris Maguire, who seems to be having a great season as well, for you guys, then it could get scrappy. If it gets scrappy and Pompey start going deep, sitting back, arguing about stuff, I think Sunderland could either nick it or would get a draw. So if you can dominate that centre midfield and stop our high press and slow the game down a lot, I think you could be successful. But I'll back the boys here. I'll say Pompey 3-1, but it could easily go either way, really, can't it? Against two really well-matched teams.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much in total agreement. It's one of those where, both teams, the start's going to be crucial. If you start well, obviously with that crowd, I think it'd be very hard for us to get anything out of the game. But conversely, like you said, if we slow the game down, if it starts slowly, if O'Nien and Maguire can play their roles as shithouses, if we're still in the game with half an hour gone, I think the big thing for Sunderland is we need to score that first goal. We've had so many games under Parkinson where we've just not looked that dangerous, where we sort of had, we've sort of come away from the stadium with a 1-1, with a 0-0. I think against a good team, for us to get anything out of it, we have to get that first goal, and whether that first goal comes early on and we sit back, or whether that first goal comes after we sort of have to soak up the pressure and then catch you cold after doing a bit of time wasting, after sort of Maguire's arguing with the ref, having it with the crowd. I don't know, but I tend to think 1-1. I'm tempted to say 1-0, but I tend to think 1-1. That you guys are going to score. You're too good not to at home, and I can't see us scoring more than one. So I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. really big game, really important game with sort of the way the playoffs are shaping up. Like you mentioned earlier, Wycombe might fade away, but I can't see Rotherham, Peterborough and Ipswich going too far. So it's a huge one, and I can't wait for it, Hugh. All the best for Saturday, and best of luck. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your Wednesday evening, and hopefully it's not the playoffs again with us too.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be back talking about it, won't we, later on in the season? Hopefully we can both get promoted, eh?
It's still possible. It's still definitely doable at this sort of midway, 2/3 way through the season. It's definitely still doable, and that's definitely what I'm hoping for. So thanks a lot for your time, Hugh, and we'll see what happens on Saturday.
You're most welcome. Cheers for having me on the show.
No problem at all. Cheers, mate.
That was Jimmy Lowson there talking to Hugh Bunce from the PO4 pod. Now, gentlemen, thoughts on Portsmouth? So it's it's a massive game, really. We're sitting 5th in the league. They are in 7th, 1 point behind, but a game in hand. So just assuming that we don't bring in anybody else in the next 24 hours, obviously that can all change. But would you like to see a Carl Lafferty come in, Scowen come in, Bailey Wright keep his space? John, what are your thoughts on that?
I was actually thinking that earlier today. I was thinking, what would I do in the sort of shoes of Pocky? And it's a tricky one because I definitely think that Bailey Wright's done enough to keep his place. The trickiest thing will be Wyke. I mean, in the last 5 games, he's played 2, maybe 2.5, 3 decent games. And then he's been off the boil the last couple of games, but he's scored. There's been a lot of calls on a lot of the pods and a lot of tweets and a lot of group chats and all that about just throwing Lafferty in and just starting him against Portsmouth. You'll scare teams, etc., etc. Personally, I know he's played a few sort of 10, 15-minute cameos now, but I'm not sure about his fitness. Plus, I'm also not sure. I'm not seen enough of him to think that in such a big game, is he someone that we thrust in that situation? Now, you might think I'm bonkers thinking that, Charlie Wyke's off the boil, he's out of form, we shouldn't keep him in. But what other option do we have, in this situation when you're thinking like for like? So I would be a bit concerned at chucking Carl Lafferty in, but then, the football manager head, playing the football manager game, I think I probably would chuck him in. An out of form player, you stick a like for like in, but in the real world, I don't think it would. Beyond that, I think Scowen's got to come in. Just echoing what Bomber said, I think he is fit. We've seen that he's a decent player. He was a bit shithousey last night, which was really good to see. And I just think that he seems a decent player, and I actually do know enough about him. I texted a QPR mate of mine yesterday, and he was sad to see him go. Actually, they said that he was he was in and out of the team, obviously, but he was a bit of a cult figure, a bit of a decent sort of puts himself about midfielder, which I think is a decent replacement for Dobbo. I think Dobson's had a bit of a torrid couple of games, and he's looking leggy. As leggy as a gargoyle can look, like bending over like he does, but he's looking really leggy. Like last night, I commented on the group chat, like as if to say, how he's always looking like he's running through mud. Well, he's definitely looking like he's running through mud tonight because he could barely run. So I definitely think Powers had a great game. Keep him in. He looks like a leader. He's really thriving in that sort of captain role. Maybe bring Scowen in, leave Bailey Wright in, even if Ozturk's fit. But I'd be reluctant to change much else at the minute.
Okay, Martin, did you agree with John there, or would you make some more changes?
Yeah, pretty much. I actually think Parkinson said that Ozturk was just dropped for the game against Tranmere, so he obviously saw something in Bailey Wright he likes. I always think Bailey Wright sounds double-barrelled as well. It's not. It's just right, isn't it?
It does actually. You're correct.
But no, look, I agree. I'd put Scowen in for Dobson. I think that's probably the only change I would make, barring injury. I think while Wyke isn't setting the world alight, I think he's actually one of those players in that system who's just really important for the team. And I think overall the whole team is kind of performing better than the individual sum of its parts is. So I'd be reluctant to change that. I think second half, yes, on Wednesday, Wyke was good. I thought he was dominated by their centre halves in the first half. But as a centre forward, I think if you're scoring, which he did on Wednesday, I think it's really harsh to not start into the next game. So I think I'd like to see Lafferty get some game time though. So I think I'd like to see Lafferty get 20 or 30 minutes on Saturday, depending on how the game's going. But scouting for Dobson, I think, who has looked as leggy as John said, as a gargoyle can look. That would be the only change I would make.
And Bomber, I'll pass it over to you. Are you going to be mean about Dobson as well?
I'm not going to be mean about Dobson. I do quite like Dobson, but I do agree with the other two in that I think it is. I mentioned not 5 minutes ago that I'm concerned for those two centre midfielders having played a lot of football. So I would agree with that change in that Scarron comes in for Dobson. He's going to be up to speed. I know he's been in and out of the QPR team, but I think I read somewhere that he's played 18 times for them this season. So he's going to be, pretty much up to speed, having played 18 times in the Championship. I'm going to disagree slightly, although I am quite conflicted on the Charlie White thing. So everywhere that we've looked to get information on Lafferty and what he's been like and this, that, and the other, everybody has said that he is a big game player. When you need a goal in a massive game, he tends to pop up and deliver. So for that reason, I would like to see him come in for White. The conflict that I've got is that when White pushes to the bench, and for the last half hour of a Portsmouth game, if you're 1-0 or 1-0 down, who would you rather bring on to make an impact on the game, Carl Lafferty or Charlie White? And the answer again would be Carl Lafferty. So yeah, I'm a bit conflicted on it. If we could have two Carl Laffertys and you could start one and then bring the other one on after an hour, that would be ideal. But yeah, I would like to see Lafferty start just because we know it's, aside from, it's one of probably 4 or 5 cup finals that essentially we're going to have in League One. This is probably the biggest game of our season so far, and it needs a big game player. And for what everyone's heard and what everyone's seen, Lafferty is a big game player. So I would probably like to see him start and see if we can get the edge over Portsmouth before we even need to bring any subs. So my two changes would be Scarron and Lafferty for Dobson and White. And again, having not seen the game but heard good things, I would say Bailey Wright keeps his place as well.
Yeah. Well, one person who is guaranteed to be there on Saturday is a New York prison guard called Louise Cardona. Now, I caught up with Louise on Sunday evening, just before he was heading over here, and here's what he had to say. Now, we've been asking for branches to come on the Exiles pod, but this week, after seeing this tweet from Sincere83 from New York, and it goes a bit like this. In a week's time, I'll be in England for the first time watching Sunderland AFC play. To say I'm excited is an understatement. Any SAFC fans going to a pub near Preston Park, be sure to say hi. You'll know it's me. Now, we wanted to find out more about the man behind the tweet, and we found him. It is New York-based prison officer, Louise Cardona. Louise, how you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm very good. Thank you very much. So it's a Sunday evening for me. It's just gone 7 o'clock here in the UK. What time are you over there in New York at the moment?
Right now here in New York, it's just after 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, lovely. So you've got your Sunday to enjoy still. I'm getting ready for work at the moment. So,
Yeah.
You can enjoy your Sunday. Now, Louise, we saw your tweets the other day, and it really, us guys in the Exiles pod got quite excited about this because it's great to have someone sort of coming over for the game on Saturday against Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. But before we sort of go into that, how does a prison officer in New York end up supporting Sunderland?
You want the short story or the longish kind of story?
Let's have the long one. We want the good story.
All right, the good story. I think it was summer 2013. I was watching, I want to say it was Champions League qualifiers. I was betting on football, soccer at the time. And I was watching Celtic play. I think it was the second leg. They were down. They had lost the first leg. I can't remember the score. But I was watching inside the bar, and NBC had just picked up the rights to the Premier League. So I said, you know what? Premier League's the biggest league in the world. Let me find a team to follow. I didn't want to pick, a Man United. I didn't want to pick a Liverpool. I didn't want to be a glory hunter. So I had asked some friends, who's American that's playing abroad? I know Clint Dempsey was playing abroad, Tim Howard, and name that came up was Josie Altidore. And okay.
Wow.
The season before, the season before, he lit it up in the Dutch league, and I said, you know what? I think I'm gonna follow this team that he's playing for. You know, he scored I don't know how many goals in the Dutch league the previous season. Let me see what it's all about. And it's been a windy road since then, since 2013.
Wow. So, of all the players to attract you to Sunderland, and no disrespect of him, being American like yourself, to have Josie Altidore be that man is saying something. But
I gave him the benefit of the doubt, game after game after game, and there came a point where I just said, "To hell with him. I'll root for anyone else on the team." Needless to say, I was happy when he left. Very much.
I suppose it's a bit of a blessing now we've got Lyndon Gooch then, who's actually playing quite well for us.
He is. I've known about Lyndon Gooch for a little bit. I know I never got to see him play, but I play FIFA a lot and I follow the teams that are on the game. I know Lyndon Gooch's card has been on there for ages. I know he came up through the academy. He's been living in Sunderland in the UK since he was 10, 11 years old. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he's doing well now, and he's got first team exposure.
Yeah, well, he scored an absolute scorcher last week against my hometown team with the MK Dons. He scored an absolute cracking goal last week. So, you came on board then. So that would have been the season. That must have been like the Great Escape season then, I suppose.
Yeah,
the Gus Poyet season. Gus
Poyet, we got rid of. Oh man, the managers. There's been so many managers.
It would be Paolo Di Canio.
Paolo Di Canio. We got rid of him, and
the absolute nutcase.
Gus Poyet came in right before the derby. I remember that, and yeah, it's been two Great Escape seasons, one after the other, and like I said, it's been a windy road.
Well, I suppose because thinking back then, so since you've come on board, so that first season was the League Cup. Against Man City, and then obviously that Great Escape where it was we beat Chelsea, we drew at Man City, beat Chelsea, beat Man United, so that was amazing. Then the following season again we stayed up by the skin of our teeth, would have been Dick Advocat, that 0-0 the Arsenal. So that's really exciting. So one thing is it's not boring when you stay up sort of last few games of the season, is it? It's very, very exciting.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, so then there was the Mags. We relegated the Mags, and then after that, I suppose we've been relegated. But it was like the Moyes season relegation, then Championship relegation, and you've stuck on board. You've stayed with us, which is amazing.
I've stuck on board. The season when we were in the Championship, I had signed up for the
iFollow.
Yeah, the iFollow. I signed up for that for the season. At the time, I had just become a corrections officer, a jailer. So my time I was working odd hours. I wasn't able to catch games that often. When we were in the Premier League, I caught pretty much every game you could think of. That game with Man United, when it came down to penalties, I saw that 5:00 in the afternoon in my living room, screaming, jumping up and down. Nowadays, because of my work hours, I try to catch a game when I can. If it's on ESPN Plus, I definitely catch the match highlights. I get the alerts on my phone when we play, what the score is, and I'll check the scores constantly throughout the day.
So for yourself, are you part of the NASA branch? Let's say we've had the guys on a few times. Did you get together with the other guys out there in New York?
I have. The community in New York, especially in the city, it's kind of small. So when I first started following the club, I think the only other Sunderland supporter was Gavin. And I think he's a member of not the executive board, but he's on the board for the region where we live in. And slowly and surely, more people have come in, but it's a very small community, maybe 5-10 of us at any given time at the bar to watch a match.
So you've also got 2 young kids as well. I've sort of checked out your Twitter, and you've got a son. Is he becoming a Sunderland supporter like yourself? Are you forcing him to be one?
I've tried. I've tried really hard. them not winning games kind of puts a hamper on that. But
yeah, it becomes difficult. I can agree with that.
I know he's excited to go. I told him the trip to Europe is actually part of his 10th birthday. He just turned 10 on Friday.
Okay. Oh, happy birthday to him.
Thank you. We surprised him with, hey, he knew we were going to Europe. He didn't know we were going to England. And he didn't know we were going to catch a Sunderland game as well. So he was surprised with that. And he's excited. He's looking forward to it. He's we follow MLS here. He's a big NYC FC fan. So them, he knows everything about. He's excited to go to those games. This game, he's excited for the experience.
I think this could be the game, though, because obviously it's, Portsmouth have got a good home crowd. It'll be very noisy there. Away games are always great to go to. Being in the Sunderland away end is phenomenal. It's obviously the most sort of passionate fans going down there. Some of them will be on the coach for about, 8 to 10 hours, maybe more. They might be slightly lubricated on the drink. We don't know. Each to their own. It'll be good. It'll be a real passionate crowd down there. And I think that's the sort of game that hooks him. And unfortunately for him, as Noel Quinn once famously said, it gets under your skin. And Sunderland might do that to him on Saturday. So,
yeah.
In about 20 years' time, he might hate you, just to warn you.
I know my wife hates me. Let me put it that way. I don't know how many weekends were spent me sulking because we lost 1-0 or 2-0 or 3-0.
Well, that was one question I was going to ask, because obviously you're going to Europe. So we had a quick chat before we sort of started recording this, and you said obviously after you go to England, you're going to Rome. Now, I must ask this question. Did you plan your trip coming to England around the Sunderland fixtures?
Surprisingly, no.
Oh, okay. So it was just my luck.
No, the way it was planned was we were originally supposed to spend the entire time in Rome. Okay. We fly out on Wednesday, and we had a layover in London. My wife said, "You know what? We're in London. We got a layover. We've got time to kill. Would you mind staying a few days?" I said, "Sure, no problem." And then I started looking up games. Where are we playing? And I had to convince her. So I was like, hey, Sunderland are playing away. The only time we were actually going to leave Friday. I said, could we extend it to Saturday so I can catch a game? She said, no problem. And she agreed to it. And then argument ensued whether I was catching the early train to get to Portsmouth or if I was catching a later train back. It was... needless to say, I'm going on the early train. I'll be at the pub, catching the early train back into London as well.
Good man. So your wife hates you, but as I say, it's one afternoon of your holiday. So to go see the lads. While in the UK, while you're in England, you've got to come watch us play. So no, fair play to you. And I really hope that you enjoy your day. And I'll give you your Twitter name, mate. If anyone's going to the Portsmouth game on Saturday and wants to meet up, your Twitter's is @Sincere83, which is SYNSEER 83. Now, have you got plans so far on Saturday? Do you know where you're going yet?
I had asked on the SMB message board. They've given me, I guess there's a pub that everyone goes to, all the away supporters go to in Preston Park. And I wish I could remember the name of it, but it escapes me at the moment.
It's always good to do your homework at any away day. What you always find, the Sunderland fans never cause trouble. The Sunderland fans just want to have a good time and have a good drink. But always do your homework, and you don't want to walk into that pub in Portsmouth like you're in a Wild West film and the whole pub turns around and stares at you.
And that's the feeling it's gonna be like an American Werewolf in London, where I walk to the bar, everybody just stops and looks at me, and I'm all right. Am I in the wrong place or am I in the right place? I don't know yet.
No, but Louis, I hope you have a really, really good time. And I hope you get 3 points for you. And I hope the game's so good your son becomes a Sunderland fan for life.
I'm hoping so.
It's great. And I love the fact that you've come on board. And not only that, it's so easy to choose a Man City or an Arsenal or Liverpool. But you've done it the hard way, and we like that. It's
the hard way, yeah.
And you've stuck with us, and it's, keep those fingers crossed. Good times will be here at some point, and you can say, yeah, I was there when we were. When we were
yeah, so. I could say, I was there when. So it still hasn't set in yet that I'm going. It won't set in until I'm actually there at the park and I'm at the pub.
So what do the guys out in New York think? Like you at the prison there. What those guys think that of you being a Sunderland fan and going to the game this weekend?
The inmates, I really don't talk personal life with them.
No, don't blame that one.
No. Co-workers, when they find out, and it's generally everybody, when they find out I follow Sunderland and that I'm a supporter, they're like, really? Sunderland? And I'm like, yep, really, Sunderland. And even my wife, we got relegated, and she told me, you can pick a Liverpool, you can pick a Chelsea now. But no. I've got so much money and time invested into it. I'll stick with them. Yeah. And
if it makes you feel any better, so obviously not for my accent, I'm about 300 miles away from Sunderland, or 250 miles away from Sunderland, and I get that asked all the time as well. So I'm always asked, why do you support Sunderland? So we're on the same one there. But Louis, great talking to you. Have a great time on Saturday. Hope you win for you. And thank you very much. And been really good talking to you.
All right, no problem. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Take care. Thanks, mate. That was Louise there. Louise Cardona, a New York prison guard. Now, he did actually message me after our chat on Sunday. Just let me know that he's actually going to be in the Good Companion pub on Saturday with his son. So if you're there and you see an American gentleman, go say hello to him, buy him a beer. End of the day, he supported Sunderland because of Jose Altidore. Now, if anyone deserves a beer because of that,
deserves more than the beer, I think, doesn't he?
I think, yeah. So fair play to him, because as I said, he came on board with us. We were doing all right at the time, the Great Escapes, and it all looked good. Obviously, good end to the seasons, I should say. And then it went all downhill, and he stuck with us. So, fair play.
He could have had Gooch. He could have had Gooch. He could have had Rayner, but he chose Altidore. Interesting. Fair play to him.
Altidore's a massive American legend, though, isn't he? Like, every other team apart from us, he's banged them in. It's crazy.
The Toronto fans were just as pleased when we did that Jermaine Defoe swap as we was, because Altidore went in and banged in. He was rubbish over there. So
Jermaine Defoe didn't do too well in Toronto, did he? Which is weird, because he came back and did amazing, and the standard of football. I mean, I like the MLS. I follow it. I've got a sort of team of my own over there, but the standard isn't great. I think it's just about the players you're around sometimes, and maybe Toronto didn't have a great team, and Altidore thrived on it being a big fish, little pond. I don't know.
But fair play to Louise though. So I hope he enjoys Saturday.
He's a big guy. He's got a big beard, doesn't he? So
big guy, beard. Big beards. I say he's a really, really nice guy. Actually, enjoyed chatting to him. Now, our favourite time of the week, gentlemen, playing away. So, if you don't know the rules by now, the guys take in turns to pick a player from the starting 11 from the game that I've chosen. They have 2 lives. If they pick a wrong player or pass, they lose a life. There has been a slight tweak on it on the game now. And so where previously, if you named a sub, you had to go again, we are scrapping that to make it a little bit easier. So, as you'd have to kind of think of another player straight away. However, you only have 15 seconds to give me a player or you will lose a life. Winner's the last man standing. In result of both losing a life on same go, sudden death, if all players named while 2 are still in, both get a point. Now, it does say here that you get 2 points if you keep the score to the end of the season. I don't know where we are with this now, if I'm honest.
No, it's going to need somebody like Sean or someone like that to go back and just listen.
Someone's going to go through the files and find out where we actually are with
I know Niles won one and Paul's won one. I think all the others have been draws, but who's been left in? I don't know.
We've had a lot of draws, so we've now there's also been a lot of moaning about what years we use. Some of the younger members of the Exiles podcast don't like any early 91s. Obviously, Martin being the oldest of all of us Exiles, wants them as old as possible. However,
1945.
I actually think this year is going to be harder than most. I'm doing from the 2017-2018 season, where Sunderland beat Hull 1-0 on January the 20th. Now, so it's the pinstripe Daffabet shirts, so it's actually not that long ago. But obviously, that season was one to forget. So I'd like to actually see how well you guys can remember it.
I was going to say there's players there that's not that long ago, but like you said, it's one that we all want to forget about. So.
Normally I think I'll be all right doing most seasons. I'll probably get I'm quite confident I'll get maybe a 9 or 10. I don't think I would have got this one. So
I think I've blocked this out of my memory.
Yeah, so this was quite interesting actually.
Erased.
Now there was a comment in the WhatsApp group earlier where John begged not to go first. So being the person I am, John, you get to go first.
Oh, fantastic! Is that my time started or?
Your time starts now.
Okay. 17-18. Let's have a think. John O'Shea.
John O'Shea is there, so John's up and running.
God.
Martin, you can go next.
So what was the date of the game?
Right, here he goes. 20th of January 2018. Sunderland 1, Hull 0.
Oh, that's right in the middle of the transfer window as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say it's before the end of the window, isn't it?
He's stalling. He's getting more time.
I think it's this 15 seconds.
I've got 15 seconds. Grab and come back.
The Russia.
Jason Steele.
Jason Steele, unfortunately, was not in goal that day. So, Martin, you lose a life.
Was he not a sub?
No, he wasn't a sub. Oh, sorry, apologies. He was a sub. I missed that. Sorry, mate. So you don't lose a life, but no, you don't want to.
Brett.
I don't know the rule. I don't like this 15. I don't like this 15-second rule. I'm trying to focus on that. Do you know what? Stuff that rule. We'll do our ways. Right, you've got no time limit.
We'll just rely on Sean to cut it down. To make it sound like we're
cut it down for us. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Fine.
So
it's on me then, isn't it? So when you said it was in the middle of January, I was trying to think of the strikers, but depending on which side of January it is, it could be anything. So I'm going to steer clear of that, and I'm going to go with George Honeyman.
George Honeyman's in the starting 11.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 that day.
Always.
John, you're up.
Gonna try and play safe, but I think I'm gonna mess it up big time because he might be like injured or suspended or something. But I'm gonna go Lee Cattermole.
Lee Cattermole was there.
Oh, thank God.
You're getting the low hanging fruit at the moment. Martin, you're back up.
Hopefully it's a safe one, but it's probably not. Aidan McGeady.
Aidan McGeady was on the bench again, Martin. So you don't lose a life. So Bombers go.
Okay. Lee Cattermole.
It's been said.
Oh, is it? Sorry. So let's go goalkeeper, which means it's one of two. I'm going to go Robin Reiter.
Correct. Robin Reiter was in goal. Right. John, you're up, mate.
Okay, so we had John O'Shea. Who else would have been at the back? Oh, that's going to be a right gamble because we had certain people which I'm not going to name.
I thought you could do a Michael Dunn just then.
I nearly did. Oh God, I'm going to go for the right back, but it's going to be one of two. I'll go Billy Jones.
Billy Jones is there.
I would have gone with the other one.
Yeah, I nearly did it. I'm not going to say his name, but I nearly did it.
So Martin, you're up.
All right, so Billy Jones at right back, John O'Shea at centre half, Brian Oviedo.
He's at left back.
Yes.
Bombers go.
Okay. So I'm going to have to... Oh, Gooch.
Gooch was on the bench.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Oh God!
John,
I'm the only one who
right.
hasn't named a bench player yet.
There's these ones that you think are obvious, and they're just like McGeady, Gooch, but then they're just not.
Maybe that's why he went down.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go with who I thought was the striker, which I'm probably going to absolutely sound ridiculous now, but was Ashley Fletcher up front on his own?
No, Ashley Fletcher was not up front, and he was
I think
not
I know
on the
who
bench.
that is now. Then.
So, John, you have lost a life.
Brilliant. Really happy about that.
So, Martin, do you want to quickly run through the team? So, you got, as it stands, you've got Robin Reuter, Billy Jones, Brian Oviedo, John O'Shea, George Honeyman, Lee Cattermole.
I'm really struggling to see why we went down that season, I have to say. So another centre half.
See, I think it's now going to get really, really tricky. Actually, this I might start rushing you guys.
Well, there's a lot of players that like you can think of, but they probably only played a handful of games. So you don't know who's in and who's out. It's,
or they were on loan and they went back. Or
I'm going to go for Callum McManaman.
Oh, you like picking these subs, don't you? He's on the bench. So, Bomber, you're up.
So I'm going to take a stab because you or John said that Ashley Fletcher and he was not in. I'm going to take a guess or a gamble that at that point we still had Lewis Grabban.
No, he had already left. So Bomber's one down. So John, I've only got one life left. Bomber, you only have one life left.
We must have had someone terrible up front then. Because if it's the people I'm thinking of in that squad, we mustn't have had. I'm not even going to try it because I'm just worried I'm going to say something completely wrong. I'm probably going to be out now, but I'm going to try the other centre back because we haven't got the other centre back yet, are we?
No.
I'm going to go with Mark Wilson.
Nope, it's not Mark Wilson. John, you're gone, John.
I knew I was terrible at this game from the start of the season. I don't think I've got a point all season.
So Martin, you've your turn to go. You've still got 3 subs to name.
Well, Mark Wilson was on my list of horrendous centre halves. I'm going to go for another one on that list. Jake Clark-Salter.
He was playing that day.
Good shape, Mark.
So I thought it'd be them ones that might throw people actually. So good on that. Bomber.
So we are looking for 2 wide players and a striker, 2 strikers.
I think you've actually. I think Jake Clark-Salter was he more like a defensive midfielder as opposed to a.
I think he's centre half. No, I think he's centre half, or he might have played. At the time, I'm sure Coleman was playing 3 at the back on occasion.
Oh, that will answer why, because you've got another defender. You've got another.
I know who the other one is. I know.
So we've got another defender.
Yes.
Is it?
I'll tell you that. Yeah, you've got a defender. You've probably got 2 strikers still to you've probably got 3 more attacking players. I'll put it that way.
Right.
And
okay.
1 defensive.
So I've got 2 names then. So yeah. Right, I'm going to go with another centre back. Go with Tyus Browning.
Yep, he's there.
Oh yeah.
Right, well done, mate. So you've got your defence. You just got to get. I'll call it like 3 forward, attacking midfielder, forward sort of positions. So Martin, you're up.
The only name that's coming to mind right now is James Vaughan.
No, Vaughan's not there. Martin, sorry, Bomber, you're up. No, you basically got to get this or you're out. If you don't get this, Martin wins.
By default, it's sudden death, lads. Dun, dun, dun.
No pressure.
Has Martin only lost 1 life?
Yeah.
He's got about 10 subs though.
Yeah.
All the subs.
Forward players.
Now I'm not under pressure. I know who it is for sure.
I think I've only got one.
Just say it then. You got to get moved on.
Joel Asoro.
Yeah, he's there. He actually scored the goal. He scored the goal. Right. So Martin, you've got two left.
I'll chuck Josh Madger into the mix.
There you go. You've got that one. We've got one player left, and we're done.
Oh God. Just run through the team one last time, Mark.
Right. So you go Robin Reuter, Billy Jones right back, Brian Oviedo, T.S. Browning, John O'Shea, Jake Clark-Salter, George Honeyman, Lee Catamole, Josh Madger, Blank, Joel Asoro.
So it's got to be in midfield, then, hasn't it? Is it good old Johnny Williams?
No, it is not. You are out. It is actually
Can I guess?
Go on then. I've just said it part of it, but go on.
Is it Paddy McNair?
Oh, no, it's Ethan Robson.
Ethan
no
Robson.
Way.
He must have only played about 3 games, hasn't he?
That must have been one of them.
I seem to think that I thought that was Ovie Ajaria, the last one.
Oh, I forgot about him.
So that was all right. That one, we did all right, lads. To be fair,
I like that one.
Difficult one.
To be fair.
Yeah, that wasn't that difficult, except for getting them all wrong, right? Yeah.
And if you want a little fun fact, Hull had 3 ex-players playing from that day.
Ooh,
they had.
We can name them.
Yeah, go on then. Let's do this as well. Then you get one guess each.
Seb Larson.
1.
El Mohammadi.
No.
Oh.
David Myler.
Yes. And then the other one was Fraser Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, got that.
No, so well done, gentlemen, on that one. Right then, the last part of the day, obviously, before we get to your letters, it was actually John's 31 in 31 challenge. John, so I will pass the floor to you and let you explain all about it.
Yeah, so I was trying to think of, coming into January, I was trying to think of something I wanted to do as a bit of a challenge. I'm severely unfit. I kind of wanted to get back out running. I run a very modestly small Instagram page called MH Support for Dads, just mental health support for dads. There's a much longer story behind that I won't bore you all with, but it's just basically trying to highlight kind of lots of different sort of techniques and kind of support that's out there for any sort of dads that might be struggling with newborns or just generally being a dad, because I think there's a massive gap there, and I think the NHS are trying to improve it. But I'm a recently new dad, and I think that when I struggled in the first few months, like most dads do, I don't think there was much support out there. So I run that page, and I just thought within that page, it's a good opportunity to do something alongside it. A friend of mine does a lot of campaigning and a lot of kind of fundraising for CALM, which is Campaign Against Living Miserably. It's a male suicide charity, which obviously because of knowing this person who does this, I kind of learnt a bit about CALM and learnt a bit about the fact that in the UK the number 1 killer of men is suicide, which it sort of kind of opened my eyes to it all. I think suicide is a tricky thing to talk about. A lot of people have preconceptions and kind of issues with suicide for their own reasons, but I think it's a great charity overall, and I think I kind of wanted to put something together to try and raise some money. So the challenge I set myself was to do 31 miles in 31 days of January running, and it kind of sounds easy when you say it like that. It's a mile a day, it's nothing really, but I could barely run down the street at the start of the month, I was extremely unfit, still am in a way, but it's also the fact that obviously people are very busy in January and there's a lot going on, and I think you can't run every day, and a mile a day isn't easy for everyone. So within the sort of challenge, I kind of wanted to document it here and there and do videos for the runs before and after, and kind of try and show that running and exercise in general can help aid your mental health and kind of make things a lot better for you and everyone around you, and kind of just be a nice sort of stress relief. I did a lot of videos, and the guys got involved quite heavily actually, which was great, including yourself, Brett, and Bomber, and Martin. You've all done amazing, and kind of interestingly, we've been sort of semi-competitive with each other, which is amazing. But interestingly for me, I'm one of the most competitive people I've ever known. But with this, I kind of was not competitive at all. I was just quite happy to let you all run a lot further than me, quicker than me. Not all of you, mind, but definitely some of you. Brett's used his cycling legs to good use over the month, I think.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, John, but now that you do bring it up, actually. Some of us, did complete the 31 miles quicker than others.
All right.
15 days.
Oh, God.
Just saying. But to be fair, I wasn't in a competition, okay? I just had to point out, I wanted to just get myself fit. I'm about 2 stone overweight. I wanted to get fit. I wanted to kickstart my new year by doing. That's why I jumped on board doing it. And I was quite happy doing my 2 miles like every other day, just doing it long, happily plodding along. And then someone else in the group, no names mentioned, Bomber, started like knocking out 5 mile runs at lunchtime. And I thought, sod it, I'm not having that. So I went out early one morning, 5 in the morning, went out and did 5 miles just to get to my 31.
So that's your own issues, Brett. I'm not taking any responsibility for that whatsoever.
No. But then of course, because Bomber being the big man on campus, he's now set himself a new challenge, haven't you, Bomber?
Yeah, I have. So I got to 31 miles, I think, on day 21, and it is. I'll be honest, I'm quite competitive, and it's what motivates me and what spurs me on to actually do stuff. So I thought, I got to that, I had 9 days left, and I thought, well, rather than stop, I'll try and get to 50. So I finished a run today and up to 47 miles. So all I've got is a 5k run to do tomorrow, and that will take me to the 50 mark. And I'll be more than chuffed with that, because my calves, and I'm sure everyone's picked up niggling injuries, but calves and Achilles have been a struggle of mine. So yeah, I'll be chuffed if I can get up to that 50 on Friday.
No, it was really good doing it, and obviously we'll link your page onto this pod when it goes out.
I just want to say, thank you to everybody that's donated so far. Thank you to you guys for getting involved and kind of helping me to. I mean, I don't think I genuinely think that I'd have been able to do it on my own, but it would have been a lot harder. I think you guys doing it and sort of egging me on and doing your own little thing as well has kind of been a bit jovial for me. It's made it a bit easier to do. So thank you to everybody that's done it. It's been really heartwarming. The donations and the comments I've had. I think I'm up to about 210, 230 quid. I started the Just Giving page just trying to raise 100 quid. I just thought it's better than nothing. It's January, no one's got any money. But I got some huge donations and some really nice comments, and I've had people at work saying quite a lot of things. I went out on a run. I went on Park Run in the middle of it all, and the local Park Run here, and I was wearing my best, and loads of people came up to me, and it was kind of quite emotional, actually, that quite a lot of people were saying what a great cause to run for, etc. So, yeah, just want to say thank you to everybody, really, and those of you listening, if this is the first you're hearing about it, that's absolutely fine. I know it's the end of the month, but any money that you can spare, if you do have any affinity to this kind of thing, and or any kind of just willingness to help out, that'd be fantastic. I'm not forcing people, but because I hate asking for donations, really, but anything you can give would go a long way. I think genuinely this is the kind of charity that any kind of amount of money saves lives. Genuinely, without the money, the charity couldn't save the lives that they are saving. So just donate what you can if you'd like, really. Thank you very much.
Oh, fantastic. Well done for getting us all involved, mate.
Good man.
But last part of this week's show is obviously time for your letters, which I don't actually know why I keep calling it letters when they're all tweets, but I quite like it.
It's 2020, Brett.
I've got a telegram to read out here. Before, obviously, each week I kind of when I do the pod, I always sort of put out my load of questions, and I'm always really pleased to get loads of answers back, and trying to find out different funny stories and find out about you guys really out there who obviously support the lads, and especially those who are exiles like we are. And one of those, and you might probably see his name crop up quite a lot on Twitter, is a guy called Martin Bates, who lives in Canada. And he messaged me yesterday, basically saying that under the unluckiest fan that Bomber claimed to be, he's also challenging you. But by far, as a massive 50-year-old fan living in Canada all my life, I've only been able to fly over and see the lads playing live 8 times, to which were the 2 cup finals at Wembley, which obviously we lost. But of those 8 games I've seen live, 1 win, 3 draw, 4 losses, plus the dollars spent. Now, obviously, Martin, you'll know about coming over for how much that costs for a Wembley game. So 8 times coming over. It's not, is it? So 8 times coming over, he's seen us win once. I did actually ask him what that game was. And, of all games to see, it was we beat Man United 2-1 at the Stadium of Light. That was when Kazri scored within 3 minutes, and then Kone later on.
You see the emotions from that is enough to drive him to fly him back 9 more times, isn't it? Really. So
that's exactly. I was actually at that game. It was brilliant. So it's nice to get one over United. But I did actually also ask how, again, like all of us guys, how he's become an exile. But both of his parents were born and raised in Pennywell, moved out to Canada in 1967. So growing up, I'd visit my relatives in Sunderland every year. Sunderland's in my blood. So exactly what me and Martin were saying earlier. Another one was from a lady called Alicia. Now, basically, this one's really for all of those Luke 09 fanboys out there. We were at Oxford away in the home end. Oh, dear. It ended up being one of the most surreal experiences in my life. We ended up sitting next to a Sunderland player who played in the 60s, although I shouldn't actually know who that player was. But we then met 09 and Gooch in the dugout before meeting us. And 09 kicked this massive yellow balloon into the home end, which ended up hitting a lady and smashing her phone, which she apologised for. Luke asked why we weren't in the away end, and I tried to get over, but we assured it was fine. Wyke and 09 happened to be on the bench for that game, and the fella next to us happened to know Wyke. So throughout the game, until later on, we proceeded to have a chat with Luke and Charlie while they were warming up on the sidelines. So look at that. Someone's actually managed to speak to Luke 09 before the game.
So it also sounds like we filled up half the home end.
Yeah.
There was a lot of us about that day, I must admit.
I actually met Luke 09 as well. Thank you very much. So yeah,
did you swoon over him?
I did actually a little bit.
Oh, love you, Luke.
Do you know what? Right? Do you know what? He's taller than he looks. He's probably about 6 foot, but he's just as nice as everybody says he is. Like 100%. Like he's just so full on nice, and he's genuine with it. Like. And I know it sounds like I fancy him a bit, but he's
all right, John. For God's sake, mate.
Do you know what? He's really good looking as well, like face to face. But yeah, he's a nice bloke, really nice bloke, and he's down to earth. I think he's one of them like old school footballers, where they actually they enjoy doing it. They know it's a job, but like they enjoy doing it. They don't get swept up in it all. And I think that's just refreshing to hear. Top lad.
He does come across as a good lad. And my last two was actually linked to the same game. So the first one was from James Fox. Who said, being in exile, Derby days were on the sofa with my dad. Again, know that story. But my ex was round for the 1-0 at St James's Park just before Christmas. We scored and Dad and I lost it. Her response was arms folded and head slightly tilted. And she said, I think it's pathetic the way you go on. It's only a game. That's unbelievable, that is.
Jesus.
Can you imagine that? You're jumping around the living room and then your missus goes, oh, it's only a game.
I'm glad she's his ex.
She's gone.
I think that's probably the reason why.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's literally his next words are, she's gone now. Never thought words could hurt that much. Girl I was seeing last year, though, decided she'd taken interest and begun learning players' names and stuff. We've just never made it to the match together. And then my last one was from Lawrence on the same game. So same Derby day 5 years ago, also on the sofa. I went mental, obviously. A moment later, I noticed my then 3-year-old son was doing the exact same thing. When I quieted down to draw a breath, he started singing "Lock Up Your Horses." # proud dad moment. That is what it's all about. I've got similar stories actually. When we basically beat Everton and relegated the Mags, and then the next game we was at Watford, and we were all singing like we're staying up, they're going down. That one. I've got a video of my oldest Millie when she must have been about 3 doing that video, like doing the dance to it at home. And her little sister, who's only 1, comes running in, can't talk, but can still do the movements. Very proud dad moment. Lawrence, I know exactly where you're coming from then. But gentlemen, that is it. That was a really, really long part. So if you're stuck in traffic, hopefully we've made time pass a little bit quicker for you. Martin, it's been a pleasure. Enjoy your rest of your morning. Enjoy your run.
Thank you very much. Yes, I will lace up my trainers and get up to 31 miles for the month.
Get on it, Martin.
Bomber, thank you very much, mate. And again, enjoy your run.
Thank you very much, Brett. Yeah, one more to go.
And John, I take it you're burning your trainers.
Yeah, I'm definitely not running for a little while. I think I might go to like some sort of like rehab clinic or something for a month because my legs are about to snap, I think. But But yeah, thank you again to everybody that's done it. And yeah, I just think that at the end of the day, you know, football's the real winner in all this.
Thanks, John.
Any more cliches to throw in before we? It's a funny old game, isn't it?
My only other comment, actually, I was just thinking a minute ago, but I was thinking, no, I'm not going to be that nasty. You know, I will be that nasty. If Sean's got something that he needs to cut out, he could just cut out Obama's stuff, to be honest. No one wants to hear him anyway. So.
Right, fine. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very
Negative
much
anyway, aren't I? So.
Gents, thank you very much. It's perfect.
Cheers, Brett.
Take it easy.
Thanks, boys.
It's going to be a
long
one.
Brett. Stop recording.
I have stopped recording.
No, you haven't. It still says Brett is recording.
It still says
Stop recording. Sorry, chat.